Greetings. Good afternoon, my beloveds. How are you? I hope this hour finds you all in good health, in good wealth, and good spirits. Uh, I know that we're going into a new year, and it's a blessing to still be standing firm and full of life, which is such a gift. And as we go forward from this year into the coming year, I know many of us are reflecting back on what has happened to them in this year. And some is saying they have a story that it's been a lousy year. The year was hard. The year was frightening, confusing. The year they lost a lot of people. People died. Family was sick and died. So it was not a good year at all. And others will say it was filled with joy. It was a year of splendor. A lot of remarkable things happened to me this year. Babies was born, new jobs, and better housing. And others will say this year was a year of truth for me, a year of revelation, a year of seeing that truth prevails and it is being brought to the light. That is my confession. As we continue in this year, I would like to ask you to look deeper, not just to reflect on right now, but in this year, what happened, but to go back further and reflect, begin to reflect on what took place and what happened. Because doing that, there's a lot of questions, that will get answered. You will begin to see that something inside of you will start to happen and your mind will start to open as you reflect and you start to ask why and really want the truth. I was born in 53. Therefore, I lived the 60s. I picked cotton and did all the things that my family did as sharecroppers. And what I saw was old men and old women saying, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, to young white men and girls and boys. And we had to address as children them as yes, ma'am, yes, sir. As you reflect back on those things, I ask myself, why? Why was this happening? What did my grandparents and their parents and theirs before that deserve? What did they do to deserve what happened to them? Their mistreatment, their captivity. What was that about? This is something that must not get swept under the rug. As some of the old people could say, if something happened to you like incest, rape, those are things you didn't talk about. you swept that under the rug, or you took it to your grave because you did not want to stir up things that wasn't pleasant, that would cause an act of violence. This is what is happening to people today. We're still in the stage for so many, and I'm speaking to mostly to the black churches, who chooses to keep that Gentile agenda going as if it was the true word, and it's the all, which it is not. I want us to ask to go deeper and get the understanding, see the truth of why this happened. What brings us to this stage, to this state right now, and why we are still in it? When we were supposed to be freed, but not really. Freedom did not come to us. They still had Jim Crow, which, again, as I mentioned, we were still living in the 50s, 60s, until Martin Luther King rose up and marched for that civil rights. Why? What happened? Why was this so? There was a reason, which we must begin in this year, for the church to stop playing around, stop denying it, and to know that these people, they were not about teaching you the truth. They were not about showing you who you were, who you are, what happened. This is something that we must rise up and find out for ourselves. Because you cannot depend on the nationality that wants to keep you as servants, wants to keep you lower than them, so that you will not know about your greatness. They're not going to tell you the truth about you. The word tells us to seek and search the scriptures to find ourselves. To seek and search diligently for the knowledge with all our hearts. And we will know the truth. And in knowing the truth, we will be truly free. We can no longer turn our heads and say, this was about a color, being black. Now, when we see black, it's beautiful. We cannot deny it. But with our naked eyes, we see black and we see beauty. How could it be about a color? It was more about color from our own people, because of that yellow against the black, because everybody wanted favor with their master. Everybody wanted to be accepted. And we fought among ourselves. We turned against each other and made the color of our skin an issue. But for white men, for the European, it was not about our color. It was not even about our nappy hair. It was about who we were, who they knew we were. Because to have hair like wool is beautiful. Why they take the sheep's wool and they make beautiful sweaters. A black horse is gorgeous. A brown horse, gorgeous. Black skin, do no longer believe that lie. We are lying to ourselves. It was about God's chosen, as they came over into Jerusalem and saw God's kingdom and his people of inheritance, then through that time they wanted to overthrow and rob and hijack and claim for themselves. As God Hebrews went into West Africa to reside with people that look like them and built Hebrew kingdoms, they knew we were there, and they came to bargain for us. They have known all along, as they brought us a royal people, a chosen generation, as they brought us to these shores, knowing who we were. They set about to destroy that which we knew about ourselves from our memory and to bring us down. Never about color, but to hunt us down and to kill us off. As it has been written, the firstborn of male, kill him, because it will weaken the nation. God speaks on nations in his word. He speaks about the genealogies. He wants us to know who we are, and he wants us to gather in our nations, because his son, Yeshua, which is his proper name, Hebrew, Christ is Hebrew. He was born in as a Hebrew with a Hebrew name. Our Most High, Ahaya, is Hebrew. He created his people. But the Romans, after taking our book of instructions, tampered with it and changed Christ's pure name from a Hebrew name into a Roman Savior. Now, would Most High, our God, change his son's name from a Hebrew into a Roman name? I don't think that would happen. We are Hebrews, his chosen ones. And so we are his lineage. They changed the truth into a lie. And the black Hebrews who deny that they're Hebrews in the Gentile churches today choose to continue in the Gentiles' way and will not ask why. This is a year that we need to start to ask why and learn to accept the truth without denial, because only then can we raise up as a people and get unity and strength. I know many will say, I don't want to offend. I don't want to hurt. It is not right. It is not about hurting. The truth will hurt. The truth will stun. Christ spoke the truth and people didn't like it. They hung him for it. Well, it has not changed. We must speak the truth in spite of it. And his offense, those who sees it as an offense, is because they have their own agenda to deal with. We are not about trodden down on anyone. That only Christ can do that. And when he comes, he will set things straight. But what we need to get straight today, in this year, is who we are and what Christ wants us to claim, what he wants us to go back to. He had to come and save us once. He came for the lost sheep and also for the world, which he's saying that is something in it for everybody. But his branches, they have a special thing, and there's an ought that the Most High has with them, and that is for breaking law and transgressing against it. He had warned us when we go into the strange land, because he warned them that he would send them into captivity. But when we go into that captivity, do not do as those strangers do in their land. Do not call on their gods, bow down to their idols, eat their unclean things. But as we went in there, our forefathers, Jacob's promise, as we went inside there, we forgot. They forgot what was supposed to be going on among them. They went in and did like the heathen, ate the unclean. And it put a fury in the Most High that is burning until today, because we still won't take heed. We are still denying what the scriptures say. And we won't read it because we won't ask why. How can we find us a lost people? I was told once by a woman from Puerto Rico that Black people had no culture, that they were lost. And at the time, I felt like she was really saying a bad thing, like we were roaming aimlessly through on this earth with no purpose and nobody loved us. But one thing she was right about: we were lost. We are the lost sheep of Israel. And the truth of this word and what she spoke has been spoken throughout I was a child. We are the hidden ones, the lost ones. And in those remnants of that has been spoken, we must grasp it and see it as truth and build on it. Because God is opening it up. He is trying to tell us something. He's trying to get something to us. If only we just receive it. We have to see that when white people, the white race, and I've watched many black and white movies, they consider it a mortal sin to go against their own. Yet, they will compromise today in saying that we're all the people, everybody is the same. It doesn't matter if he is white, black, whatever. Do they really believe that? It's a trick, because many of them have known all along who we were. And they would never speak it, and they would never teach it in their churches. Now that we have started to learn it, God has taken off the blinders from many of our faces and raising up his Hebrews, prophets and priests, to go and preach this word, to teach it. Now they want to claim it. Now they want to claim us as people that they want to live among and be close to. We must begin to see the fraudulent behavior in an enemy that when they had us in captivity, they could not treat us like indentured servants or giving us education, but having us work for them. They could not treat us as humans. They stepped on our necks and raped our children and sacrificed our babies. We must begin to see that behavior is the enemy that is spoken of in the scripture. A conspired nation getting with other nations, conspiring against God's people, bringing us from those shores on slave ships, seeing that it is profitable for them. And even in today, what is happening to our young men and women being held in captivity over unfair laws, things that should only be a short time in incarceration, they give them years for small deeds. The crime, the punishment does not fit the crime. So they are trying to keep God's people in captivity. God has given me the voice, the heart, to speak as a speaking spirit, to speak on these things that need to be spoken about, need to be heard by his people. As others come forth, we must learn to give an ear, hear, so that we can run with it and speak it and tell another one. Each one teach one, as it is said. This year, we must ask ourselves, why? Why did this happen? What was it that they wanted from us? Why could they not let us be? Was it that they were so lazy that they couldn't work for themselves? They needed slaves to help build their industrial revolution? Or what was it? Why not let us rest and work some more? Why was the mistreatment? Was they evil? Yes, they had evil deeds. But they served a God that required sacrifices. And that God is spoken of in the Bible, Baal, which now they have built 3 more newly built Baal temples. And which tells you that the God of the scriptures is not in their hearts. They do not serve him. They do not think of him. It is to perpetrate a fraud while they go about in their closets doing something so entirely different. This word is for us. These commandments is for God's chosen, God's royal priesthood, a chosen generation. The Bible tells our story. Paul went to the Gentiles and they received it by faith. He spoke and told them how to receive the love of God and how to be saved. But they forgot. I believe that those he taught down through the years, they have forgotten about the Roman receiving the word at that time. And they put on their Roman agenda and they changed the Christ from Hebrew to Roman. So their superiority reigned. And as we, the church, we must look at this and not be pulled into that lie any longer. We must flee. Flee away from this lie that we be caught in it and burn in eternity. Let us this year take off the blinders, those dry bones in the valley is rising up and they can live again. Yes, as Christ asked, can they live? Yes, Jacob, Israel, we can live. Our sons and our daughters can let go of unrighteous behavior and get along with each other. If all across America, in nations where all of the dark races are in suffering and in strife and hunger, if we began to love each other, if God put, as He told us, and we began to listen and abide by what we've been told to do. Imagine the jails, if all of Jacob in there started to love one another and get along and treat each other with respect. Imagine what would take place. Peace that reigns throughout those cells. What would take place? How pleasing the Most High would be with His people. We must begin to gather in our nations now. The time is at hand because Christ will crack that sky. And as we see now, this word is very strong. It is meat. And those who cannot receive it, they will choke on it. And as we receive it and believe it, we can gather. And of course, some will be stubborn and stay in denial. But then the word says only 10% will understand it and receive it. But we can gather. It will turn some against their mother, daughter against their mother, son against their father, because all is not going to receive it. But we must begin to gather in our tribes, in our nations, because Christ is coming. He's coming for His people. He's coming for His lost sheep. And for the Gentiles, there's a reward in it for you for telling the truth. As Christ said, His branches are special. So do not boast in how you received it by faith and that you were better, because now you see the branches running wild, not keeping law, doing unclean acts. But He will restore them if they turn from their wicked ways. You have not given us help in that, because you've built a system that wants to destroy us. God is not pleased with that. As I said before, the Romans forgot all about what Paul taught them, and they've fallen back into their natural habits and their unclean ways. But for those Gentiles who maintain the love and the belief and the truth and receive this truth and speak this truth, there is a reward. And again, for the church, wake up. Time is at hand. You do not want to throw away your inheritance. You want to be a part of the promise. Wake up this year. I'm Sister Betty. Wisdom speaks.